Warriors, this is the Spartan Underground. And now, your host, James 300 Foster.
Welcome to 2018's first episode of the Spartan Underground. This episode features none other than Ty Gay. Ty is the lead singer of Everybody Panic and an awesome Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Black Belt. We had the opportunity to sit down and discuss a bunch of different things, and it was just a great time. I think we covered a lot of very important topics, not only for people who train, but people who run their own jiu-jitsu academies. So I really look forward to you guys listening, and I think you'll get a lot out of it. Now I'd like to take a moment to focus on our sponsors. This episode, as well as every episode of the Spartan Underground, is sponsored by ShoYoRoll. That's ShoYoRoll. You can find out more information about them on showyoroll.com. I can tell you they provide the best jiu-jitsu gis on the market, hands down. They also do some cool apparel and from time to time, even some other items that they do in cooperation with other big name brands out there, which is very, very cool. If you're into jiu-jitsu apparel as much as I am, you need another brand to check out. So make sure you check out Albino and Preto. Albino and Preto also makes awesome jiu-jitsu gis, and they're a related company to ShoYoRoll that has their own designs and a little bit of a different style. They also do some really cool apparel. Make sure you check them out over on albinoandpreto.com. That's ALBINOANDPRETO.com. Our featured sponsor of this episode is Impact Custom Mouthguards. Impact Mouthguards are the official provider of mouthguards for USA Boxing, and they have some really awesome custom grappling mouthguards that you can get. So you go on their website, they send out a kit so you can do the custom molding of your teeth, send that off to them, choose your completely custom design if you'd like, and they're awesome mouthguards. They're very thin while still providing a high level of protection. And they don't, make you feel like you can't breathe like a lot of the regular Boil and Bite or other custom mouthguards do. So make sure you give them a look over at impactmouthguards.com. And if you use the promotional code Spartan10, that's Spartan10, you will get 10% off your purchase of a custom mouthguard over on impactcustommouthguards.com. And now, without any further delay, here is episode 12 featuring Ty Gay. Enjoy the show. What's up, Spartan Warriors? I'm very excited to be here today with my friend Ty Gay. Ty is a Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Black Belt. He runs Redline Jiu-Jitsu in Oklahoma, and he's also the frontman, or should I say lead singer, or would frontman better describe you, for Everybody Panic?
Either or. I'll answer to either, I suppose.
All right. The lead singer and frontman of Everybody Panic, Mr. Ty Gay. How are you doing today, sir?
I am amazing.
Awesome, brother. I really appreciate you taking the time to be on the podcast today.
Oh, I'm honored. I love your podcast. It's great.
Awesome, man. Thank you. Yeah, I need to get on a schedule here of doing more because it's received a good response. And, well, I'd be preaching to the choir if I talked to you about being busy running a jiu-jitsu school. You know all about that.
Yes, sir.
But yeah,
I also run a podcast, so we need to have you down to do a seminar and get on my podcast. We
oh
typically
man,
do,
I'd love that. I'd
we
love
do
that. That
live
would be
ones, you
great.
know, so I like to do it in person whenever I can because it's just funner to interact.
Yeah, yeah,
But
definitely. I'd be
and I'm
down
so
for
busy,
sure.
I don't have much time to do them like you're doing here. But
Yeah.
every once in a while, it's really cool to have somebody. And we had Roy Dean and Henry come in.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely though. I love the whole podcast thing, man. I think everybody with a voice like, especially like yours in the jiu-jitsu community, should have one.
Definitely, it's something that everybody can do. It's
Yeah,
fairly simple to set up. You don't need to spend a ton of money on equipment or anything like that to put together a nice sounding podcast. And like you said,
yeah,
for people with a little reach and influence in the jiu-jitsu community, it's an awesome platform.
for sure.
So I wanted to ask you a little bit about how you got into jiu-jitsu and how long you've been training and all that basic type of stuff for people who maybe aren't familiar with who you are, and also touch a
Okay.
little bit on how you got into music and all that cool stuff.
Sure. So they're both pretty intertwined. I've been a musician for longer than I've been in jiu-jitsu, but basically I was following a band around called Tool, right? It's a rock band.
Yep.
And backstage at one of those Tool concerts, I met a gentleman named Henry Akins. And I had done martial arts since I was about 9, but it was like Taekwondo, Hapkido, the standard run-of-the-mill things that you get in a small town. And but I could tell this guy, Henry, knew something because he was the bodyguard for Maynard, the singer of Tool.
Right,
And
right.
he had an air about him that was, and Henry back then was jacked. So he was a scary looking dude anyway.
Yeah, I
But
remember hearing that he was quite a bit bigger back then.
yeah, it was before he went all vegan and whatnot, became a monk. But I saw him there and I walked up to him because everybody's bombarding Maynard with stuff. And so I walked up to Henry and I was like, man, I know you do some kind of martial art. What is it? And I'll never forget, he stood up and he's a little taller than me. He crossed his arms in that Gracie stance. He raised his chin a little bit. He looked down his nose at me and he said, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. I was just like, whoa, And I had already seen Hoy fight in the UFC 4, I think, in Oklahoma and Tulsa, and just destroy Dan Severn, after so many minutes. And this is when I met Henry. It was about 1997. So a little bit after the UFC had started kicking out,
Yeah.
Everybody would be watching the VHS tapes at the house, and they didn't happen very often, and they're blood sportish.
I was right there with you. Same thing.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I got started. And in Oklahoma, there just wasn't anybody here yet. Back then, Hickson had just left the Gracie Academy to have his own academy, right? It was like in a Taekwondo school or karate school. So that had just happened. Carlos Machado, I don't believe, was in Texas yet. So there just wasn't anybody around me. And so I was training at a judo school named USA Stars under Pat Burst, an Olympic judo coach there. And they had a jiu-jitsu program. And it was Japanese jiu-jitsu, but they were calling it, like, I think, combat jiu-jitsu, which is funny now that Eddie Bravo has that whole thing.
Yeah,
Awesome.
exactly.
But it was very much, I would say, back in those days, it was very much just like everywhere was that was trying to do grappling back then. It was very rudimentary, crude, and we were rough and tumble. much different training methodology than I have today.
Yeah, it was different back in those days.
Yeah, it was
Every
survival of the fittest,
every role was like the final at Worlds or something.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so in Henry, because I became friends with him actually when he on that tour, because we kind of connected on the martial art thing. He's like, my brothers live here in Oklahoma and my family lives here. I'm getting dropped off the tour here in Oklahoma for Christmas. And so that's kind of how I got really connected with Henry. And he would come over to my house and would just show me he was a blue belt then, and would show me, the basic self-defense techniques that Hickson was showing him. And we become good friends and friends with his brothers too, and then and his family. And he would come back in town every year for Christmas or Thanksgiving, maybe just to visit. And I would go out there some and train with him. I got to meet Hoxton, which was really cool.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
I would Hawkson would sell me his old T-shirts. So like he would have tournament shirts from Brazil because it was in Portuguese. I thought that was super cool, you know.
That's awesome. Do you
So
still have some of those?
I do. I have like 2 of them left. I think originally I had like 6, but you know how time goes, stuff gets
Oh
lost.
yeah.
They don't fit me anymore.
Too swole.
Yeah, that's it. Swole. That's it.
Oh
Being on the road
man.
with the band sometimes is hard when it's all like beer and pizza diet, you know.
Yeah, I can imagine that would make it difficult.
So I mean, fast forward, I trained there for a little bit and had some interactions with Henry, and so he would show me stuff, and we would train all that. And then I met a guy named Leonardo Xavier, who moved from Brazil, I think, to Louisiana first, and then to Houston. I trained under his association in Gracie Jiu-Jitsu for 8.5 years. And before I was black belted, I was a brown belt in that association. And before I got my black belt, I was a little bit disillusioned with just what we were doing in the direction of the association that I was in. Not Humata, but the Leonardo Xavier Association. And
Right.
nothing against him. He's a great dude. Awesome techniques and stuff. But for me, I started with Henry in this very street-based, he was Hickson, you know, stuff.
Yeah.
And so I was really kind of looking for that. And Henry was always so magical to me. Like his jiu-jitsu just felt different, right? And
Yeah.
so I always wanted that. And I was almost a black belt, and I didn't have that. I felt like I didn't understand jiu-jitsu very well, you know, for being that way. I was good at certain moves, don't get me wrong. I could win some tournaments, you know, but it wasn't like I had an understanding of it. And that's actually when I met Henner. So fast forward just a little bit. Me and him had a little bit of a falling out, and I left the association, and I had no association. One of my friends is like, oh, we should go to this Gracie immersion thing in, I think it was in Fiji. Yeah. And this is an eye doctor friend of mine. And I was like, John, you're an eye doctor. This is my eye doctor buddy. His name's John. It's like, you're an eye doctor. I'm a jiu-jitsu teacher. We don't go to Fiji. You're a jiu-jitsu teacher.
Right.
So he was lucky enough. He got to go, but he made friends with Henner and Hedon and even Victoria, which were just girlfriends at the time.
Right.
And Eve needed some eye surgery, right, to get like eye implant, these like LASIK implant like things that go in your eyes, right? So John Bellardo is like the #1 guy in the world of doing that stuff. My buddy, who's this eye doctor, he's amazing. So they brought her in, and Henner came in and did a seminar for me for free as appreciation to John.
Oh, very cool.
I met Henner, and I never forgot, like, he taught a seminar, and he was teaching the American key lock. I'll never forget this. He's teaching the American key lock, and if you've ever been to one of Henner's seminars, it's truly a mind-blowing experience because of how detailed he is. But anyway, he was doing the American key lock that we've all done, right? And he looks up at his grandfather's picture, and there's something happened in that moment. Like, I could see, like, he looked up at his grandfather in just such a way, and he was showing the key lock, and it was just magical, right? And his style was very street-based, you know? And so I really, really liked that. And, you know, I asked him if there was any kind of associations or anything like that, and they said they were kind of in a prototype thing with the whole CTC deal, but they didn't have anything put together. And so
that was before they set up the Gracie University and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they just made the DVDs, I believe, for combatives. Anyway, so I fly under the radar a little bit on that and get to come in and sit in on some things. And I get to meet Hedon, and me and Hedon really clicked. He is like a philosopher, right?
Yeah, he's awesome. I've had the opportunity to train with him on a couple of different occasions and always had a great time.
Yeah, he's super cool because he loves stepping outside the box on any given topic, including jiu-jitsu, and really pushing the boundaries of who he is, you know, as a human being, his diet, like the whole thing. And so I have to credit him for a lot of my direction in life when it comes to being like just pushing myself to be like a better person, to never just settle for where I'm at, you know, type of thing, you know?
Yeah.
So he's pretty instrumental in that. And also him and his wife have been really instrumental in me and my wife's relationship also. Like they're just really great people, and they do things in a different way, and I like I like that. So we've gotten a lot out of just our relationship with them and how helpful they are. And then Henner, of course, helped me as a businessman. So I was not a businessman at all until I met that guy, and he really showed me a different way of being able to run a business. And as far as their teaching methodologies go, man, the best thing I ever learned in my life was jiu-jitsu, right? But the second best thing I ever learned was how to convey that information to others. And I totally have to give them credit on that, because that was all them.
Yeah, teaching really is something that you have to work on and you have to learn. I think a lot of people may be blessed technically, but a lot of times have trouble conveying that information when it comes to actually showing somebody else the ins and outs of how a technique works.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I got to go through their instructor program and stuff a couple of different times, once under the radar and then once, to become a certified instructor for them. And then I brought a bunch of people through to do that also. And then I was one of the guys that helped run the tests up there for a while. I was a big part of their group and association. But what had happened for me was my band started to really take off. So through this whole time, this journey of doing jiu-jitsu for 8.5 years, I've also been in a band touring all over the United States with a couple of different projects. But the most recent one that I've been in since 2012, we got signed on our third show. We opened up for a band called the Deftones, or Deftones, not the Deftones.
Yeah.
And great band, and we got picked up by a label that night, which was really awesome. And it's kind of a new up-and-coming label that, really working hard to do stuff called Cavi Gold Records. So it was really good for us and to get to go on the road. The bad part is as far as like my duties, helping out with the academy and running a CTC and doing all these things, I just wasn't in a place to do it like I was before. And I had so much focus on my music career and all this stuff that was going on for it. So I left the CTC program at the Gracie Academy with their blessing, of course. And I run kind of a boutique type jiu-jitsu school called Redline Jiu-Jitsu in Oklahoma now. And it's, I think it's, it still follows a lot of the same guidelines that the Gracie Academy had set forth. But we do have a few different things, that the Academy doesn't necessarily do, or I guess we should say Gracie University now.
Right.
Do. But I think that's great. There takes all kinds out there.
Yeah, definitely.
I think their program is amazing. Like they're above a lot of associations on stuff when it comes to, like, for instance, they do background checks on all of their instructors, a nationwide background check that the instructor has to pay for.
Yeah, that's really
way ahead of their time.
Really important, and that's something I wanted to touch on. You've kind of stepped out in the jiu-jitsu community and made a statement, recently, basically calling out leaders of academies to make sure that they're background checking their instructors and their students, and making sure that we don't have any of these sexual predators training amongst us and taking advantage of a situation where they're learning obviously dangerous things that could be used for bad purposes, and using it as a venue to prey upon people further. I think that's very important, and I think it's something that a lot of academies and instructors shy away from. So kind of what spurred you on to want to come out and make that statement and make sure that people were aware that, bad people train in jiu-jitsu as well?
Man. Well, I didn't have any intentions of doing any of this.
Right.
I was really trying to focus on my own jiu-jitsu practice, my students. I'm creating a curriculum for my students that they can access, just them and stuff. So I'm really focused on that. And then my musical career, we're recording with this guy named Logan Mader, and he's like, in the music world, he's huge. He did like the 5-Finger Death Punch records, and
awesome.
He's just a great dude and really connected into the industry. It's the first time we've ever got to do anything that big, Yeah. So that was really what I thought my focus was going to be, and so Brandon Hetzler is a friend of mine on Facebook, and who used to be, I say used to be, still is, Hickson Gracie black belt. kind of does his own thing, and he's super into like Japanese culture, and he's very, very knowledgeable and stuff. Well, anyway, he posted a statement about Rickson Gracie taking a picture on Instagram with this guy, Dave Arnbeck, and he had been in some trouble.
Right.
So I saw that happen, and I called Henry, right? Because Henry's been my friend this whole time. Also, Rickson Gracie Black belt. And Henry told me, yeah, I actually went to the association like 2 years ago when it first started or whatever, when he was invited up there, and talked to them about it. And the reason that Henry kind of pulled away from the whole thing is kind of nothing was ever done about it. And Brandon actually told me he'd said the same thing, but they were separate from each other, but they both talked about these two. There was two guys specifically, right? David being one of them. And in my whole life, you got to understand, I've really looked up to Rickson and Pedro Sauer and all these old school, OGs of the art. I modeled a lot of the things that I did in my life after them, and Rickson's Superman. And so to feel like there was like these guys in their clique and they weren't doing anything about it just disturbed me.
Yeah.
So the
for
first
sure.
video I made, I got a lot of heat for it because I think I called Rickson a fraud or something in there.
Oh, yeah.
What I want people to realize is I wasn't necessarily trying to run Rickson's name through the mud or do anything negative to Rickson, but without shaking everything up and kind of ruffling some feathers, I just don't think people would have noticed anything. You got to understand, you got 2 black belts from Rickson. They've already gone to Rickson, and it kind of just went away. There's also been people like, let's see. There was an article not very long ago, thinking, I can't remember the exact date on it, but about sexual misconduct in tournaments and stuff like that, right? There's guys that were convicted of maybe rape or whatever that were still getting to compete.
Yeah,
anyway,
still being allowed. Yeah, being allowed to compete in the major events and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and it just kind of came up and then it went away, right? And so it makes me a little bit panicky, no pun intended, because my kids are panic, but that this can kind of go on. So me and Brandon and Henry started really, really researching stuff, right? And Brandon got a hold of some. He basically paid $25, I think. So for a month, he could check anybody anywhere. And so we just started checking people, right? And there's another guy that was in question too. And the reason that I didn't say anything about Homolo, is who it is because I was just waiting, as I needed that for leverage in case they never said anything.
Mm-hmm.
Now, through this whole time where things were going down, I actually got in contact with Pedro Sauer. And man, that guy is awesome. He really believed in what we were doing. He's got daughters of his own. He encouraged me. I believe.
Yeah, wasn't there even a video of some guy who was sexually harassing his daughter that he put in a wrist lock? Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, he is on our side for sure. And let me just say this: Rickson is also on our side, and I believe that the whole jiu-jitsu community is on the same side, as far as like, we don't want sexual predators in this group.
Yeah, definitely.
Here's the thing. Because I talk to so many people, and when you hear enough people talk about one person, it's typically true. And here's what I hear about Rickson, that he is just like the most awesome dude ever. And he would give you the shirt off his back, and he believes in everybody. He really wants to see the good in everybody, right? And so I hear that from almost everybody that knows the guy, right? So I don't think that he's being malicious by any stretch by having these guys wearing his patch and all this stuff. What I do think is that he believes, so much in the good in people that sometimes bad people can manipulate him.
Yeah, and slip through the cracks and kind of be the proverbial wolf in sheep's clothing type of deal.
Totally. I totally think that. But I think that right now we're just to a spot in like humanity's time or whatever where we're starting to get rid of things like that. Humanity's evolving. And, we've said for a long time that we don't like pedophiles and rapists, right? We all say that. No one's going to say they like pedophiles and rapists. But how many of us have really stood up and tried to eradicate them from certain places. It just hasn't happened, you know.
Yeah, and it's, it's up to the leaders in whatever community it may be to stand up against this stuff and be an example of how you should approach it, and how you should deal with these types of situations, and set that example.
Definitely. Because if not, here's what's going to happen, James. We're going to create an environment set up for predators. Because
Exactly.
we put black belts on a pedestal. They're all of a sudden, they instantly become life coaches for some reason, and they've got this weird mystique about them and this power, and then they can just have this intimate closeness with everybody without any question. Nah, man, we got to make sure that doesn't, no weirdos slip through.
Yeah, and not only that, but you're teaching people, techniques on how to subdue and control somebody.
Oh Lord,
Dangerous
I know.
techniques, that could be used in bad ways. So, and we have a huge responsibility as black belts, and people with some following in the jiu-jitsu community, to stand up against this stuff and make sure people know that it's not okay, and that we're not gonna put up with that, and we're not gonna have anybody under our roof who, falls under that label as a predator.
Yeah, man, I agree. And just to be clear, after the first video where I was asking Hickson to make a statement or whatever, I had no intentions on making another video calling out Homolo and Scott Noggle. I wasn't trying to do that publicly. I was really trying to go through the right channels and do that. But what I kind of started to realize is that I was probably in the best position to do it because I really wasn't as connected to those guys. You see what I'm saying? It's like I didn't have,
Right.
I could say whatever, and who cares? It's Ty from Oklahoma, And
Yeah.
so that's really kind of why I went ahead and made the second one. Because here's the thing. Although it's a noble cause and all that kind of stuff, a lot of people were cautioning me not to do so. And it wasn't because of they're trying to protect these guys. It was because they're trying to protect me. Because you have to think about, if you're talking about taking away somebody's identity, their place of power, and their money, you're creating an enemy, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And it's not my intention to create enemies, but I do want to see the people that are in our community safe, And so I had to talk to my wife, Jennifer, and see, hey, this is what I'm doing. How do you feel about it? Let's talk about worst case scenarios. What if somebody wants to retaliate against me? Which I hope nothing would ever happen like that, but we have to think about it. And she said, if I want to stand for something. I don't want to live my life and think that we didn't stand up. And so then I had to go to my band. I have to ask them because they're on stage with me with spotlights, very vulnerable
Right.
position. And I said, I want you guys to think about it. Don't answer now. And they were like, we're answering now. We want to do it. We stand for something. And so these are the kind of people that are in my life. And then, of course, I had to talk to my school. And they're less in danger, I would say, than everybody else. But still, that most people want to be known. Oh, I got my black belt from this guy who won worlds, this year or whatever. Maybe you got your black belt from Ty Gay, the guy that was calling out all the weirdos. So
Yeah.
that's they have to know that, and everybody was totally down. Everybody supports, what I'm doing. And so that's when we made the decision that I would make that last video. And then after
Isn't
that, as you
it?
probably know, some of them went to jail and stuff,
Right.
So there were some really scandalous stuff going on there.
I find it interesting though that there would be such a negative response to what you're saying, because it's not like you're throwing out just false allegations against people. You're actually researching and finding information that's that the public can go out and find.
I think the problem, and I was part of the problem. Let me just state that. But there's something I believe is called lineage cults, right? And I was part of that because I idolized Hickson, put him on this weird pedestal that's not fair to him, right? He's a man, right?
Right.
So, but I have him as this guy who's had never lost a match, and he's this samurai, like Buddhist monk or whatever. But that's being intellectually dishonest, and not taking responsibility for my my part to do to be the best person I can be. Don't look up to others. Try to be the example, you know. And so here's the thing: there's a lot of people who start coming in and say, "Jiu-jitsu is magic." I mean, it's like superpower, right? So
Yeah.
when you first come in, and there's a white belt, and they roll with a black belt. They're like, "Oh my God, I had no idea it was going to be like this," right? So you're automatically have superpowers to this person. So that sometimes creates a weird thing about the instructor or their lineage or whatever else. And it's really important. Don't get me wrong. It's really important to pay homage to the people that came before you and pay respects to those who did work so you could be here. Right?
Yeah, most definitely.
But there's
Well,
a slippery
we also
slope.
we also
Yeah.
have to realize that we're all human.
Right.
And we're all capable of making mistakes, you know, knowingly and sometimes unknowingly. And
Yes.
we're responsible for the mistakes that we make, and we need to own up to them.
Definitely. Yeah. But I believe the community right now, man, things are looking good. I think with Henry, he done a statement about the whole looking at even their students, you know, just make that part of your waiver, right? They sign a waiver, say, hey, listen, you have any criminal history, check this box, then explain why, and note that we are going to do a criminal background check.
Yeah, that's very smart. And I was actually going to ask you, you know, what are some tips that you have as far as what academy owners can do, you know, to be more proactive on this?
Okay, so for one, obviously, make sure that all of your instructors are legit and have complete background checks, 1,000%. The second thing you can do is make sure that you have cameras in all of the places where you can. That means everywhere except for the bathroom, right?
Right.
If you can't afford to put them in your training room, like your private training area, do not have a door on your private training room area. Have some sort of a little curtain or something there. That's taking care of anything that could go on inside the academy. There's no hearsay then. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah.
You can see it directly. This guy did this to me, and you can rewind the tape and look at it, right? So that's important, I think. Always having instructor meetings about talking about if there's any weird behavior that you're talking about it in your meetings with your instructors, then you can red flag people. This is kind of some strange behavior. Let's watch this guy or girl, whatever. To help you stay on top of it. And then I think that, you know, the background checks on students is priceless. I think that's an awesome idea. And
for people that aren't aware, I mean, there's databases you can go to. There's some that are not even to where you have to pay, but you just go on and put a name in. It's free, and you can search and, you know, see if any records show up on that individual.
That is right. Yes, that's true. Yeah, anybody can search. That's the thing. It just takes a little bit of time, you know, but that's, you know, fairly easy.
You have to do your due diligence to, you know, it's a small thing to do to avoid a potentially horrible situation.
Yeah, for sure.
I think a lot of people, you know, as far as the heads of academies, maybe it's just an extra headache that they're not wanting to deal with, unfortunately, and it kind of gets, you know, pushed to the side, and not as much of a focus goes on it as there should be.
Yeah, I really think, though, it's the future, though. If you want to have a business, now if you're just running a jiu-jitsu school for a hobby or whatever, I can see that being maybe the case. But if you really want to have students, man, you need to have something that takes care of them like this. And the masses are going to look for something like that. And more, I believe, you know. Your academy is holy ground, right? It should be treated like such. If your instructors treat it like that, then the students start treating it like that. And that comes from the main person that runs it. So,
yeah, I always say it all comes down from the top.
Yeah.
So, speaking of academies, when did you establish and start Redline Jiu-Jitsu?
I started it in, I believe it was 2002. But 2004 is actually when I got my LLC, so legally 2004.
Right.
But I was running some stuff out of like a gymnastics place. We had like a little pink and purple dance room, and the guy let me have it after 7 o'clock. And we would put down mats. It was hilarious. I had like a pink boa around the top. You had to be pretty tough to train in a pink and purple room with Ty Gay.
No kidding.
But
That's awesome.
that made us who we are, I guess. So I
Now,
appreciate every little thing after that for sure.
what rank were you when you started teaching?
Blue belt.
Okay. Yeah,
So
I was actually a purple belt when I started teaching. So
yeah, so Lovato got his blue belt before me from Carlos Machado. I saw him in the paper with his dad. They both got blue belts. It was a big deal here in Oklahoma. I was still a white belt at the time, but shortly thereafter that, I got my blue belt. And I was basically just teaching some classes at a karate place on the side sometimes. And then I was teaching this kicking gym thing, like half karate, half gymnastics to 4-year-olds, right? So it was like just fun. And
yeah.
that's the guy who let me have the place. His name is Steve Honer, amazing dude. Let me have the space after 7 o'clock, and that's when I started like getting people to come grapple with me. Of course, then I didn't charge. I didn't start charging until 2004.
It's funny. We have a real similar kind of story as far as that goes, because I was teaching out of a karate place as well, and I kind of started my whole deal around 2003, 2004 as well. So I think
awesome.
We've been on a very similar path. You've been training, going on 22 years now?
Yes, my 21st year on February 6th. So
okay, yeah, yep. So we're right around the same. I'm working on my 22nd year. So that's awesome. Really cool, man. Yeah, we've been in it almost since the beginning of when it was, popularized here in the U.S. through all of us, I think, first seeing it in the UFC with Hoist.
Yeah, man, that was the thing. Little Hoist. So awesome.
Yeah, we were like, man, what is this guy doing? Because I know I was doing karate at the time, and I was a black belt in karate, and I'm like, me and a few of the other black belts saw that, and we're like, man, what is this guy doing? Started trying to reverse engineer it and see if we could figure it out, and just the rest is history, as they say.
Yeah, man, it's so cool. Now it's somebody was asking me the other day. They were asking me because I was the first school here in Edmond, Oklahoma. And there's a bunch here now. And in fact, on my bicycle ride to my academy, which is 10 minutes away on a bike, I passed 2 academies to get to my academy. And somebody was asking me, like, oh, how do you feel about that? Coming into your space and all that stuff. I think it's awesome. There is not enough jiu-jitsu academies. You could put 10 more in this town, and I wouldn't blink an eye. I think it's great. There's not enough academies to house all the people in any given town right now,
Yeah, absolutely.
So as opposed to like fighting for the people who are already in jiu-jitsu, I'm just trying to get the people who have never even been exposed to it, to come in. And I think that's kind of how our business model works and works best.
Yeah, and it's amazing to see how far it's come. It's got to be cool, for you to see it, after being one of the first schools there, and now seeing how much it's growing.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It really is, and I think
I was scared for a while, man. I was scared that the UFC was going to be deemed a blood sport and it was going to go away.
Oh yeah. Well, I think we can learn a lot about building up jiu-jitsu as a whole. Doing things for jiu-jitsu as a whole versus looking at it as a competition between us and the other schools that are out there, because like you said, there's plenty for everybody, and should be trying to bring others up instead of tearing others down. Unfortunately, 100%. I think when people don't understand how to run a business, they often tend to run other people's names through the mud in an attempt to try to build themselves up. And we're real fortunate. We're pretty fortunate here in Washington State that we have good relationships with all the other academies. It's a pretty unique situation because we all came up together, so we're all friends and we were all white belts together. But I always find it, kind of sad to see when I travel around that it's not like that everywhere. Like, other academies don't support each other's events and all these type of things.
I'm really blessed with Oklahoma. I mean, I get along with all these academies. Like, any of those academies I drive by, I could walk right in and have a roll before I get to my academy. In fact, some of the guys got their blue belts from me. So when they started out, so it's like everybody in Oklahoma, I don't know if it was just because Oklahoma's kind of the center of the United States and we're kind of, we're considered just out in the country. But we have a really cool community where everybody's sharing all the time. I just went to a seminar the other day where a bunch of dudes that are getting ready to compete against each other were in the same room together, learning leg locks and doing some cool stuff, So it's like,
see,
it's just one
that's
big
awesome.
group, So we'll fight when we get to the mat, but when we're just hanging out, we're all part of the same thing, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing, jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, and that's something I think, again, it needs to be an example that the leaders of the academies set. It's like, hey, we go to seminars still. We're black belts. We go out and learn from other people, and people from other associations are our friends, and we're just in it to see jiu-jitsu grow and to continue to grow ourselves.
Yeah, become the best versions of ourselves while helping others do the same. It's great.
Exactly. So, how often do you tour with your band now?
Well, shoot, let's see. I was on tour for a complete year, and then I got off tour, so that was kind of interesting. Luckily, I have everything set up at my academy and a wonderful staff. Some brown belts there. I don't have any black belts of my own yet, but just amazing, amazing teachers that are there. I have 7 instructors under me there, and they really kept everything going while I was gone. And then when I'm back, I just float around to like all the classes, right? So I'm not really designated to teach any of them, but I try to teach as many of them as I can while I'm in town, and that's a lot of fun. But as far as touring goes, I think we're getting ready on June 3rd. I think we're getting ready to start another one. But it's amazing because I travel with mats, and I do this thing called rock jitsu. And so I have a bunch of rock and roll friends that also do jiu-jitsu, and we're part of this little clique called rock jitsu. So we like to meet up on the road, or if somebody wants to come and do private lessons with me on the road, they can meet me before the show. I have mats that I can roll out, and we do a little thing where you get tickets and get to do a private lesson, all this stuff. It's like these package deals that we do, which is really cool. And then I also get to visit other schools all over the United States, which is super, super awesome because I'm with the band, so I don't have to pay for flights or whatever. I'm just there. So I get to do seminars and meet people all over the United States. And that's super, super awesome when I get to do that.
So that's great. You get to maintain your training and spread the love of jiu-jitsu to others while you're on tour.
Oh, yeah. Jiu-jitsu by day, rock and roll by night.
That's awesome. I love it, man. That's very cool. What do you find is the biggest challenge when running your academy, when being away for extended periods of time? Like you said, you have assistant instructors and everything that kind of oversee things while you're gone. But, I mean, it's got to be challenging to kind of be out of the picture a little bit and not have that level of control over the business.
Well, it is, but I believe jiu-jitsu breaks into 3 different parts. I believe it's mental, verbal, and physical, right? And we get a lot of practice on the physical aspect of it when we're at the academy, when we can train. But whenever we're hurt or we're sick or you're on tour, it gives you an opportunity to hone those other 2 aspects of the art. And so that's really what I try to do. I'm also plugged in because I have cameras at my school that are linked to my phone, so I can watch every class if I want to.
Okay, yeah.
And like our tests, if there's any tests, they're videotaped. They're sent to me. I grade them video-wise, So as far as that goes, I still kind of have a hand in the mix.
So you're pretty connected via the technology and everything. Helps you stay connected.
Yeah, it's digital age for sure.
Crazy world we live in.
I know, isn't it awesome? Dude, my band,
very cool.
We don't even practice. We practice like a week before we go on tour, but we write everything in separate states or towns and states. Got a guy in all the way in California, Oklahoma, so it's like technology. If it wasn't for technology, we wouldn't even be able to have the band that we have. It's pretty amazing. Like nowadays, the recording process is so much different than it used to be. Back in the 90s, we'd be recording on reel to reel, Now everything is digital. This last record, when we went in and wrote, we didn't hardly even have we had some pieces of music, but no real structure to anything. We wrote everything right there on the fly. It's crazy. One of the songs that we wrote is called Dead Heroes, and I really wrote it after the first video that I made, and I was just pumping all my aggression and anger towards the situation into that song.
Right.
But it was written in like 9 hours. It's
That's
pretty
crazy.
Used to, that didn't happen. It would take me months and months to figure out a song, and get it right. But
yeah, and there's so many tools. So many tools available to us to be able to collaborate and do all these things over great distances.
I mean, look at it right now. We're having a podcast right now.
I know. Yeah, I heard about this thing the other day. Basically, they're calling it Photoshop for the human voice. Did you hear about that? Okay, so basically what they can do now, they've got this software where basically the more audio of the person you have, the better quality they can make it.
Where they take your voice and make you say anything?
Yeah, they could make us say anything. If they listened to this whole podcast, they would have enough data to be able to simulate our voices and have it be near indistinguishable. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, great. Well, that way I don't have to have any more podcasts. They can just do it for me.
Yeah, the band you won't even have to sing. They'll just run you through that software and make you sing all the lyrics.
I can't wait. Get me one of those holograms or whatever, like Tupac has. Oh, man.
There you go.
I just kick back at my house. Just watch it from my house.
Now, something I wanted to talk about a little bit. You've got a pretty amazing wife who runs Jiu-Jitsu and does all sorts of cool things within the Jiu-Jitsu community as well to empower women. So you guys got married not too long ago, correct?
It's true. We got married on Halloween.
Yeah, that's right.
We've been together for 9 years. So,
that's awesome.
Everything. And to be honest, you were asking me like what the hardest part of going on the road is. It's really leaving her. I love her and love to be around her. So
that's always really difficult. Yeah, for sure.
Favorite training partner. She's my best friend. Sounds like all cliche, but
all the cliche stuff. Yeah, I say the same things about my wife, and you realize how cliche it sounds until you've experienced it, right?
Yeah, man, it's real. Yeah, and she runs she runs Jiu-Jitsu, which is a company that's designed to empower women on and off the mat, right? Just with anything that could possibly do such. And she's got that shirt that says "Real Men Empower Women." She's had that for about 5 years. It's in a bunch of different places now.
I've got 2 of them that I wear regularly. Yep.
But I just love that message, and I think right now we're just in a place and time where a lot of guys don't know. They want to help. We just don't know what to do. But I think that shirt just kind of conveys like, "Yo, we're here. We're behind you. We got your back." And I think that's cool. I have so many people out in public. I was at some store the other day, and this lady, she looked like she was having kind of a bad day. She looked at me, and I could immediately tell like I was going to get the stink eye. But she read my shirt, and her face immediately changed. She came over, she gave me a hug. There was no words exchanged.
That's awesome.
She moved on. So, I think things like that are important. Also, Jennifer is real big about, grounding techniques and stuff like that, and that's helped me a lot. She's also a yoga teacher and stuff, so she's been really really beneficial in my life, Plus, she's an amazing cook. I don't know if you've seen any of her pictures of her food.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, she makes. Now, are both you guys vegan or?
No. I'm vegan by default whenever I eat her food.
Okay, so she's vegan and then you're vegan by default.
Yeah, I eat meat though, and sometimes she does too. Don't let her get you twisted. But we tend to do just like really high end meats. Nothing that's like none of the just normal ground beef or whatever. We're trying to get like good cuts of meat that are grass fed. No weird chemicals or hormones.
Yeah, exactly.
Stuff in there. She actually has a cookbook that's coming out on Valentine's Day, and it's a meal plan and a cookbook, and it's just super clean. Like, it's designed for vegans, but you can supplement, and she shows how to with your choice of meat.
Very cool.
So it can go for us meat eaters too. So,
right on. Where will that be available when it comes out?
I believe it will be on shijitsu.com.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, that's awesome.
Check that out. She's got a lot of cool stuff. She's got a cool blog and stuff. I'm biased, but she's pretty awesome.
Now you spoke a little bit about the how she helps you with grounding techniques and things, and
Correct.
maybe a little. Now is that through meditation or just kind of taking some time for yourself to quiet your mind, that type of thing?
Many things like that. There's depends on the level of stress that you're in, but for me, stopping everything, like stopping my phone and everything else, and in the morning having my 5 minutes of breathing with my eyes shut. And it sounds not like much, but it really helps me set my tone for the day. Just drink a big glass of water and sit there. Also, like if I'm getting too like panic stricken, one of the techniques is to look at something and name it without giving any kind of emotion to it. Like
Okay.
door, it's brown. The floor is wood. And so once you're going down that path, it kind of gets you out of the weird negative feedback loop that I'm sometimes in.
Basically, ways to make yourself be present.
Yes.
Gotcha.
I also like to go put my feet on the grass. I like feeling the earth in my feet. I don't know if there's any, like, I've seen lots of people say, oh, you get some sort of a energy through your chakras. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I like to stand barefoot on the ground and like just take in the air and let the sun on my face. And I also like to pick 3 things every day that I'm really thankful for. And I like to periodically go back through the day and really think about those things.
Yeah, I think with jiu-jitsu especially, we always think about jiu-jitsu being about all the cool moves we learn and everything, but people really kind of leave the mental component out of it, unfortunately, and it's such a huge part of jiu-jitsu, especially for people that compete.
Yeah. Oh
I've seen
man.
a lot of amazing, people who are very gifted athletes, technically and physically, go out and just fall apart because the mental aspect of their game hadn't been trained enough
Yeah.
leading up to the event. And I always tell my students, that's a component of your training as well. It's not just about coming in and drilling moves. You also have to be working on your mind.
Oh man. Yeah. I mean, there's a reason that all the Olympians do so many mental reps, They do visualization stuff all the time, not because it doesn't work.
Yeah, you look at any pro sport. Usually, there's they have their own mental training that they go through, and coaches that they do their mental coaching with, and everything. It's a regular
Sure.
part. Name anybody who's an elite level in their sport, and they'll tell you that that's a huge aspect of their training. So I wonder
Definitely.
why it's kind of something that's overlooked so much.
I think it's because we're so new. I think we're kind of still evolving. Like, look at judo. Judo's in the Olympics, right? So they're like trying to win the Olympics.
Right.
So wrestling too is in the Olympics. So it's just, I think we're kind of new, and everybody's trying all these different things out. And there is no rules, which makes it really cool. So that's one of the cooler aspects to it. But the down part is that sometimes we neglect tried and true methods that are, staples.
Yeah, maybe you think it doesn't apply to us.
Yeah.
Because we do jiu-jitsu and
That's
jiu-jitsu's
right.
magic, right?
That's right.
So where can people go to learn more about your band and your jiu-jitsu school and shijitsu and all this
Oh
awesome
yeah.
stuff that you're involved with?
I do have a few irons in the fire,
You
but
do.
yeah. So if you want to check out my band, you can. Everybody Panic is the name. You can listen to us on Spotify or download us with Apple anything or Google anything, whatever. There's even Everybody Panic Bandcamp.com has a place where you can name your own price for stuff. If you're into giving us money, that's the place to do it.
There you
uh,
go.
as far as the band's website, it's everybodypanicmusic.com. And so you can just go there and check it out, or go to Facebook or Instagram, any of that stuff, YouTube. And as far as my jiu-jitsu school goes, we're called Redline Jiu-Jitsu. You can look us up by going to redlinejujitsu.com or redlinebjj.com. They both go to the same place. And that's my website. I also have a YouTube channel called Redline Jiu-Jitsu. We have a bunch of cool stuff on there. And my wife has a clothing company and a women's empowerment company, I guess. It's called Shijitsu, shijitsu.com. You can check all of her stuff out on there. She has all sorts of cool swag and cool information. And then let's see what else. I also have a podcast called Submitting Life Podcast. You can check that out on all platforms also. Hopefully we'll have Big James out there.
Man, I'd love to be.
And do some talking.
I hope so. It's been a while since I've been to Oklahoma.
Yeah, I'm sure we can get Pete and his crew to come down. I love that guy. He's a good dude.
Oh, I do too. Yeah, last time I was in Oklahoma teaching a seminar, there was a flash flood. That's the first time I've ever been involved and been in the middle of a flash flood. I almost missed my flight.
We do have flash floods. We have earthquakes. We have the biggest tornadoes in the world. We have firestorms.
That's crazy, man.
It's a blast, man. Come on over. It's great.
Yeah, I was trying to describe it to people. I was like, literally, like if you're watching the news and you see like where the street looks like Whitewater Rapids, that's how it was.
Yeah, me and Jennifer got caught in a flash flood a couple of years ago and just barely made it. The cars behind us were completely underwater. We just barely made it to the high spot.
Yeah, it was insane. We were luckily the people I was with had a big 4-wheel drive, and we were trying to make it to the airport. I'm drawing a blank on what area we were in, but it was where the airport is basically like also a military base or military installation, and it's like literally the smallest airport I've ever been to. It has 2 gates. Has 2 gates and a very short security line. And luckily the police were trying to tell us to turn around. There was no way we were going to make it there, but we found a street where the river had gone up over the bridge that was going over the river.
Oh yeah.
and we were able to make it across that bridge, and we got to the airport.
Oh man. Yeah.
Otherwise I was stuck and I might still be there.
We wouldn't miss that on anyone.
Yeah. Well, brother, man, I really appreciate you taking the time to be on the podcast today. I know you're a busy guy, and it means a lot to me that you took the time to be on here. And like I said, I'd be honored to come out and do a seminar at your school and be on your podcast as well anytime.
Yeah, bro, let's make that happen. Yeah, and thank you so much. It's a great honor just to be out here on your podcast.
Absolutely, my friend. Well, listen, you have a great day, and I hope to have you on here again soon.
Yes, sir.
All right. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.